What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This your boy Bangful B of the Lassiter Factor, and with the release of Joker Folly I Do hit theaters this weekend, I rewatched the first film last week, and now here I am giving you my review this week. So, let's review. So, Joker is basically a spin-off film that is essentially an Elseworld film that takes place within the DC universe, and it is centered around Joker. But it's not the Joker that you're typically familiar with. It takes place somewhere between the late 70s, early 80s. We see Arthur Fleck, who is our Joker within this universe. And this movie is essentially how life just keeps whooping Arthur Fleck's ass in the back alley somewhere, to the point where one day Arthur, he has some type of sense of enlightenment and snaps. And we see how those actions is also affecting Gotham City. Now, this film came out 5 years ago. It is the first R-rated film to make $1 billion. It was also controversial for a lot of reasons, but above all, it was my favorite film of 2019, even above Avengers Endgame, which also came out that same year. And I love Avengers Endgame, but to me, I've always loved this movie because it was different. It was different from other things that the comic book genre was giving us at the time, and I felt like it had a lot of things to say. And because of all that, I gave it my highest rating at the time, to which, if we are going by my rating scale as of now, which would be the hands up emoji, because I think it is a masterpiece. And 5 years later, I still feel that way. Todd Phillips made my favorite comedy of all time, The Hangover. And so when I heard that he was making something like this, I thought, that is very different for him, but I'm curious to see how it turns out. And he made something incredible, even if a lot of people accuse him of making this movie like a Scorsese film, because yes, this movie is essentially a Scorsese film. In fact, it probably takes inspiration from the Scorsese film Taxi Driver. Even Quentin Tarantino called this movie out for borrowing heavily from Scorsese, to which Tarantino, you the last person that need to be talking about this movie borrow elements from another movie. And while in truth, they're not wrong for saying this movie does borrow from Scorsese films, I mean, hey, there are worse people you could have borrowed from. And plus, this movie still manages to be its own thing. Basically, it takes place in the DC universe, or another Earth in the DC universe. It's basically a Scorsese film that takes place in the DC universe. At least that's how I look at it. But I will say Todd Phillips really shows what he can do as a director with this type of material. Granted, it was a calculated risk, but it was still a risk nonetheless. Now, I'll admit, I haven't seen a lot of Joaquin Phoenix films, but this is, at least in my eyes, one of his best performances right here. And he is definitely the second best Joker. And also the second Joker actor to win an Academy Award for his performance as a Joker. But while his take is miles different from Heath Ledger's, Joaquin Phoenix's is still unique in itself, because he's basically, we get to see this Joker and how life just keeps beating him on the ass. I mean, he has mental health issues, he has a condition where he just laughs uncontrollably at inappropriate times, and he is trying to get help from the system, but the system just keeps failing him. He wants to make it as a comedian, and he's just not very good. And of course, he has hallucinations where he thinks life is going one way, but in reality it's not, which I will get into in a little bit. But basically, I just like the whole unreliable narrator take of this Joker. But eventually, life just keeps beating him on the ass to the point where he just snaps. And when he's on that train and takes out the Wall Street brokers, it was a cathartic moment from him that just set him on the wrong path. And that moment where he's on the steps dancing, that is the moment where he became. And I just felt Joaquin Phoenix showed that transition seamlessly and believably. And he lost a lot of weight for this performance. At a point, I was just like, yo, are you okay? But like I said, this movie also, through the eyes of the Joker, has something to say about classism, mental health, and just that ultimate drive to insanity. And how the world can just be so cruel and so divisive that it'll drive anybody crazy, as he said in the movie. I Granted, it's not like that in our real world. I mean, you never know. I mean, there are crazy people out there, but like the point I'm just saying is that you never know what somebody is going through, and you'll never know what will drive a person to insanity. I also just love the weird aspects about this movie, from the cinematography, the sets, all the dancing, and all the moments of craziness from Arthur Fleck. You don't know what's real and what's not real. By example, we meet Zazie Beetz' character in the movie, and she does meet Arthur in the movie. And throughout the movie, they made it seem like they do have an actual relationship where they care for each other, but then it is eventually revealed that all that was just all in Arthur's head. She was never actually there when he was at the hospital with his mother, when they went out walking in the city. All that was hallucinating the whole time, and then he's just sitting in her apartment, and then she there wondering like, yo, what the fuck you doing here? Basically, the life he wished he had is just all happening in his head. Even Robert De Niro's character, Murray, he's a late night talk show host, and he's hallucinating that he's there, and then he's actually being nice to him, but then he does see the tape where he tried to go out for stand-up comedy, and then he makes fun of it on the show. And that whole ending scene where they are on the show, that is just tense in itself, because he does reveal that he killed those Wall Street guys, and then Murray's trying to be reasonable with him, but then everything goes horribly wrong, and then eventually, pow! And that sets the whole city off. And Arthur, he is a hero in everybody's eyes. And then the movie ends with him being in the insane asylum, probably Arkham Asylum for all I know. And quick side note, I do like how they use the Batman references sparingly. We do see little Bruce Wayne, we see his parents, and then there's this whole thing where Mr. and Mrs. Wayne, they're the actual parents of Arthur, but it turns out they're not. We even see Alfred in this movie, and then of course, it ain't a Batman movie or a Batman origin or anybody origin story that takes place in the Batman universe without seeing the death of Bruce Wayne's parents, pearls and all. But getting back to the very ending of the movie, where we see Arthur in the insane asylum, and it just plays into the whole unreliable narrator. We don't know if all that was real or not, but I think it was real, and this is just the place where he ends up. In accordance to what we see in the trailers for Joker 2, it just confirms that. But overall, this is one of those movies that every time I watch it, I catch something new, and I love these kinds of movies. It's like a painting where every time I look at it, I might find something different, no matter how many times you look at it. A painting of a clown, if you will. I absolutely love this movie, even 5 years later, and I'll probably continue to find something new about this movie every time I watch it. I can't wait for Joker 2. It seems like a nice little companion piece to this movie that might add to it. It gave us a second great Joker performance. It's a movie that had a lot to say, even for a comic book movie. And like I said at the beginning of this video, to me, this movie is still a masterpiece, and I am going to give it the hands up emoji because it is, without a doubt, a masterpiece. Thank y'all so much for watching. Have y'all seen the first Joker? If so, how do you feel about it? And are you excited for Joker Folie à Deux? Let me know in the comments section below. This is your boy Bang4B of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe, wash your hands, peace.